Hi students, let's discuss our next topic, compare and contrast various 21st century genres from the earlier period. So this is the lesson 2 or lesson 2 of our module 2. So last week we've already tackled the lesson 1 under the module 2. Now here at the end of our lesson, we will have we will differentiate or compare and contrast the various 21st century literary genres and the ones from the earlier genres or periods, citing their elements, structures, and traditions. Specifically, in this presentation, you are going to identify the different literary genres. Let's proceed. Literature is written works like poetry, novels, journals of famous authors, and usually published. General literary means type, so literary genre means types of literary works. So we know that we have desire of self-expression resulted to the production of literature. So when we are writer, it is a writer's expression of his mind, heart, emotions, thoughts, and ideas. Literature is written works like poetry, novels, journals of famous authors, and usually published. Another meaning of genre is it means type. So literary genre means types of literary works. So in this part of the lesson, you will recall and differentiate the four major literary genres like poetry, fiction, nonfiction, and drama. However, literature changes to adapt to the trends of the contemporary world. Thus, we have new genres of literature. In this lesson, we will study also and appreciate both the earlier genres and the contemporary genres. So we have here the new genres, the textula, flash fiction, chick lit, blogs, hyperpoetry. So here, genre, for example, under the genre is the poetry. Poetry is one of the earliest genres of literature. It was either recited or sung back to prehistoric times to call for help from a deity, narrate a hero's life and victories, talk about the love story of their rulers, or describe someone who inspires them. Poetry is a style of writing that uses a formal organization and that is often divided up into lines or stanzas, or it refers to something beautiful. An example of poetry is a beautiful song. It is also the work of Robert Frost. That is an example of poetry. The next one, the next genre we have is fiction. So fiction is a story of make-believe. It is a story made by the author's creative imagination. It has various subgenres like mystery, fantasy, suspense, historical fiction, science fiction, realistic fiction, and folklore. Example of folklore actually are myths, fables, and legends. To understand fiction and to write a good fictional story, you must be able to identify and understand its elements and comprise the text contents and message the story wanted to impart to its readers. Fiction is defined as something that is not true. So an example of fiction is a book that is not based on a true story. An example of fiction is a lie that you were told. And another example is a false belief. Anything made up or imagined as a statement or story is an example of fiction. We also have nonfiction. Nonfiction is a literary genre that tells about the stories that actually happen in real life. The subgenres of literary nonfiction are biography, memoir, autobiography, journals, diaries, periodicals, and references. These works of literary nonfiction have character, setting, plot, conflict, figurative language, and theme just like literary fiction. Fiction and thriller or suspense. To interpret fiction class, we must analyze and interpret using the elements of fiction. It is a story that is based on true events and information. For example, an autobiography about someone's life is a nonfiction. Encyclopedias, how-to manuals, and biographies are all considered nonfiction and so are kept in the nonfiction section when you go to the library. Next is drama. So the definition of a drama is a story or situation which usually presents some sort of conflict. An example of drama is Romeo and Juliet. So I know that you are familiar with Romeo and Juliet. So it is a written work that tells a story through action and speech and is acted out. So it is a usually serious play, movie, or television production. So that is a drama. The next description of drama is the art or profession of creating or putting on place. And the third one is it is an exciting or emotional situation or event. Reporters told the drama occurring in the courtroom. The example of drama is a breakup caused by the boyfriend cheating with the girlfriend's best friend. So we know that those kind of stories nowadays are very popular, and we can consider this one as a drama. So the new genre of literatures, we have the various genres of literature and its subgenres, and it changes through time. So the invention of electricity, use of electronics, and other modern technology affected how people view life and express themselves differently from their contemporaries 10 years or 100 years ago. So technology made our lives easier than the last decade. So it made people work fast, meeting deadlines, and presenting marketing and management strategies creatively. So these changes have also brought new literary genres that gave us new avenues of expressing ourselves, like cell phones and computer screens. So these new literary genres or these new genres include mobile textula, hyperpoetry, flash fiction, chicklit, and blogs. So when we talk about hyperpoetry is a poetry uploaded in the internet. So its medium is the computer screen. This is an example of hyperpoetry. So the poem in the screen, we have pain is earthly and temporal, sacrifice is surely irrational, hope is hazily conventional, existence is hazily corporeal. So those uploaded poems or poetry in the internet, we can consider them as hyper poetry. Hyperpoetry also includes verse with links to sub-poems or footnotes, poetry generators, poetry with movement or images. Yun yung mga example or those are the examples of hyperpoetries. So it is usually highly steeped in the visual and sometimes involves parts that are read in varying orders. Next one is mobile textula. So we are familiar with this, especially you students. Um, Mobile textula is a short poetry in a form of tanaga. So tanaga that is sent through SMS on mobile phone. It consists of 4 lines with syllables using slash to end a line and 2 slashes to end the stanza. So in the example, as you can see from Mariel Kate. So Mama Yat Balisa. So if you count the number of its syllables in one line, in every line we have 7 syllables. Mayay, balisa. So that's 7 syllables. Another in another line we have go, beer, noy, li, gaga. That's another 7 lines. Sa, lut, na, karamdaman. It's another 7 syllables. At the last line, we have hindi nalulunasan is another 7 syllables consisting of 4 lines. So that is Tanaga or the mobile textula. So the next one is the flash fiction. Flash fiction, it is telling a story in a few words, usually about 100 to 1,000 words or less. A flash fiction can be as short as Ernest Hemingway's 6-word memoir, For Sale, Baby Shoes Never Worn. Okay? The example below is a student was written by a former student to express a person's many facets as an individual. So let's read it. They have known him as a weakling and a loser. He never said a word or done a thing to defend himself or speak what was on his mind. Stupid, unworthy, Emineis has no future. Those were his father's words. He just shrugged his shoulders and did what he thought was the best to prove them wrong. 10 years have passed, and here I am waiting for my son's return from Manila. There he is, accomplished, full-fledged doctor and a hero of the COVID-19 pandemic. So as you observe, it is very short. So it consists only 100 to 1,000 words or maybe less. So that's a flash fiction. So while there is no or flash fiction is a genre of fiction defined as a very short story, while there is no set word count that separates flash fiction from more traditional short stories, flash fiction stories can be as short as a few words, while short stories typically run for several pages. So that's their difference. The next thing we have is chicklet. Chicklet is a heroine-centered fiction narrative usually focused on the trials of the protagonist. Below is an excerpt of a chicklet taken from Wattpad. One needs to download the Wattpad app and the story to experience reading chicklet. I know that you are very familiar to what we call Wattpad. So it is a type of fiction typically focusing on the social lives and relationships of young professional women and often aimed at readers with similar experiences. In slang, young women are called chicks. That's why this genre name chick lit. Okay. The last one in our lesson for today is blog. Blog, a regularly updated web page or website that is written in a conversational style. A blog is a shortened version of web blog. Is an online journal or informational website displaying information in reverse chronological order with the latest post appearing first at the top. It is a platform where a writer or group of writers share their views on an individual subject. Good examples of this include a food blog sharing meal recipes or a company writing about their industry news. Blogs are also promotes reader engagement. So readers have a chance to comment and voice their different concerns and thoughts to the community. Uh, Blog owners update their site with new blog posts on a regular basis. So that's it. I hope you understand our uh, lesson for today.